Hi, and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live about detours and magic. A few people have already emailed me and texted me to suggest questions that perhaps I might look at during the course of tonight's detours. Hi Sonia, hi Marianne, thank you for joining. Detours is an interesting topic. And quite a few people responded when I went fly fishing with it earlier. And I say fly fishing because basically I cast a lure to see where people were at and how they were feeling where detours are concerned. Hi Caroline, glad you could join us too. Detours aren't negative. They're not things that we do wrong. And they're often things that make perfect sense in the moment, which is interesting because that's the intellect. And when you have the intellect and not the intuition, the perception is that the intellect can lead us astray. Well, quite often it does. And yet the intellect can simply be a means of moving us from one space to another without actually interfering with the path that we're taking. Hi Finula, hi Julie, glad you could join me. What do I mean when I say that? We plan what we want to do before we're born. Our soul has a plan. This is who we're going to be, this is where we're going to be, this is the family and the circumstances into which we will be born, and this is the path to enable us to develop more fully who we are and what we can do about it. Point is that life often gets in the way. We forget that we're spiritually connected, or something happens and we don't trust our spiritual connection. We are given an offer that seems too good to refuse or to ignore, and so life does get in the way. Or does it? I personally believe that it doesn't matter how many detours we take, ultimately we will end up where we're meant to end up. We may not end up in the condition we'd like to be in, but we'll get there. Because our guidance is usually strong enough, smart enough, and sometimes sneaky enough to manipulate the energy to help us to achieve what our soul wants to achieve that our personality may have forgotten. Detours for me are the difference between taking the motorway from point A to point B or taking the scenic route. On the scenic route, you're going to take longer, you're going to see more, and you may experience more. And when you arrive at your destination, you'll have a different set of understandings, of capabilities, of parameters, however you want to phrase it, than if you'd taken the most direct route. You'll still be there. That doesn't mean that the most direct route causes you to miss something. What you've learnt on the detour, you'll have the time and the opportunity to learn either before you set off or after you arrive. And if you've got the opportunity to learn it before you set off, then the detour simply helps you to reinforce that learning because there's something in you that's perhaps a little bit resistant. Hi Yumiko, nice for you to be with us. So I've got 4 questions that people have asked me that I'd like to quickly touch on in this Facebook Live. And the first one comes from Orla, who wants to know, are detours personality led? And if so, why? Or could they be the roundabouts for slow learners that we keep going round and round until we get the point? And that's a really good way of putting it. I don't know if you've noticed, but we often do the same thing again and again, and we get frustrated because we're doing it. We're doing it again and again because The roundabout, we're ignoring. We're so focused internally on how we present ourselves that we're forgetting why we're presenting ourselves. We're on a spiritual path, not just to expand our own soul journey. We're on a spiritual path because we're here to be part of a bigger picture that can help the maximum number of people if we collaborate. And that's the key, if we collaborate. So if we don't, we will find ourselves taking detours so that we can learn, so that we can be presented with the same possibilities from a variety of different directions until the penny drops. That this is about who we're becoming and not about protecting who we are in the moment. So I hope that answers your question, Orla. Sonia wants to know how we move beyond the emotional body in a detour and see the magic, which presupposes that the emotional body has created a detour that's negative. So I'd like to address something here. I know Sonia doesn't mean it from a negative perspective, so I'll make that clear first of all. But there is a perception that we see a detour in a negative light. Because it's a detour, because we're not heading straight for the goal, we're taking our time, perhaps we're being a bit lazy, perhaps we're not really interested. Detours aren't negative. Detours offer us an opportunity to breathe. It's a bit like the tortoise and the hare. You know, the M1 route is the hare, or that's the appearance. And the detour is the tortoise. Again, that's the appearance. The tortoise sees a goal and goes towards it, and it may drive up the M1, and instead of driving at 100 kilometres an hour, we're in Australia, so it's 100 kilometres an hour, it may drive up the highway, the M1, at 80 kilometres an hour. And the hare could be the detour, wanting to check here, there and everywhere and making sure nothing's missed. So if you're in a detour, or if you feel that you've detoured off your path, instead of judging it, ask yourself, where's the relevance? Because if you're on a detour, there's something there that you need to see, and it's better for you to see it in that situation than in another situation. Look at the detour and ask spirit, not your head and not somebody else, ask, what's this detour about? Why am I here? Where's the benefit and where's the joy? Because it doesn't matter which route you take. Ultimately, it's accessing your ability to connect to your joy and be who you came to be. If you live with either or, if you live with right or wrong, you're living with your personality. If you live with it is what it is, because it is, in other words, acceptance and allowing, you live with spirit. So are all detours negative? No, some can be delays. You may find yourself taking a detour that leads to a dead end. There's a huge lesson in that. If the detour leads to a dead end, then you can guarantee that detour did not come from the spirit-led idea. It came from the emotional body or the mental body, believing they know better. And it looks good. You know, if something looks bright and shiny, it doesn't necessarily mean it's spiritual. It doesn't mean it isn't, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is. It's about tuning in when you're given a choice of going one way or the other. In that moment, tune in and ask, is this the path for me or is this the path for me? You'll get an answer. You may not like the answer. You may feel that the one you want to take looks better and Spirit's sending you down this boring old track. The point is, it will be where you need to be. So, question, do detours come, this is from Caroline, do detours come from flaws, from fears or judgments that interfere with our ability to use our intent effectively. Yes, they can. Every detour is guided by Spirit because everything we do is guided by Spirit. The difference is that the detours are not necessarily intended by Spirit to occur. So if we have a fear or if we have a judgment about who we are, we might avoid following the motorway to our destination and hope that by taking the longer route, the scenic route, we may not have to deal with the fear or the judgment and we'll get there without the worry. If you're not prepared to face your fears, to smile at them and say thank you because they're teaching me something about myself, if you're not prepared to look at your judgments from the perspective of there's a dark corner of my personality here that needs my soul light shining on it, then any detour you take is going to be driven by fear or judgment, and it's not necessarily going to make you happy. And it will delay your arrival at where you need to be because what it's doing is saying, don't go there. Hoping that when you do get there, perhaps things have changed and it won't be what you're dreading or fearing or judging. Detours offer us an opportunity to learn something more fully. Either to understand that we have a fear and a judgment and to address it, to say, okay, if this is my fear, what do I choose to do to move beyond it? Because recognizing something is only half the story. If you don't take action, then the recognition gradually disappears because there are so many things coming at us all of the time. That recognition gets buried beneath everything else that's happening. When we take action, we make it real. And detours are about finding the reality of who we are because that's the magic. So when you take a detour, celebrate it. Because the biggest detour of all and the most harmful detour is the refusal to see you. There's a great quote that says, the definition of hell is that the last day on earth you meet the person you could have become. Wow, what a detour that is. So I hope this has answered your questions, and if you've got any more, then give me an email or pop a comment below when we post this. And if there's anything else around this that you want to continue to explore, then let me know because I'm happy to do so. Thank you, all of you, for being part of tonight, for joining us, for giving me the questions in advance so that I could have them all ready to make sure I didn't miss anyone. I'll be back next month. That sounds like Schwarzenegger, doesn't it? I'll be back. I'll be back next month. So whatever else you feel you'd like to ask around this whole energy of being who you be, magic and detours or anything else, let me know. And if there's enough interest, we'll look at it in the next conversation. Talk to you later. Bye for now.